You know what's crazy about this is that when men say things like this, there's upheaval. When women say things like this, it gets standing ovations and articles written in Psychology Today about it.
My spouse's heart and take my kids away from their other parent, and they didn't want to do that. So for them, outsourcing the sex, if that makes sense.
Outsourcing, wow. Yeah.
Was a legitimate, reasonable answer. One of the big things was the fact that women talked a lot about maintaining multiple affairs. Wow. I kind of went in thinking, oh, they've got a husband and one person outside, but that was not the case for many of them. They were sort of juggling partners, and their reasoning made sense. They said, I've already put all my needs into one person and depended on them, my spouse, and that's not worked out for me. So why would I do that again?
My goodness.
In an affair?
The more content that we do each and every day, the more clear that this world is a circus and it's currently being run by clowns. Let's get active on this topic. You guys remember the website. I've gone over this in the past before, Psychology Today. Now, when I've gone over the website previously, it was specific to the initial place that I found this male loneliness epidemic. Now, they created content based off of research studies, and they changed around the data to their own liking in order to get clicks and views for their feminist ideologies. Well, they're back again on their bullshit. And the article that I have for you guys here today is simply incredible, all right? Essentially, they're speaking about how modern day women today within modern marriages are finding a new, amazing way to keep their marriages intact. And what's that way? To cheat. Yep. Research was done by this lovely young woman up here at the top. Her name is Alicia M. Walker. Now, she's a PhD with a sociology degree, right? The study of humans and human behavior. And she's essentially concluding a bunch of different things. Now, she is, according to her own words, not advocating for infidelity, but she's absolutely justifying it, all right? Now, I may come back to this article, but there's actually a video that I found of her speaking about her research and what has she found. Let's go through the video first and then maybe double back into the article. Without further ado.
How is society changing when it comes to infidelity? There are more reasons than you may think why women stray outside of their primary relationships. According to Ashley Madison, the #1 website worldwide for married dating and affairs, people sometimes stray to stay. Joining us now is Alicia Walker, a PhD and author of The Secret Life of the Cheating Wife, with the inside scoop about infidelity and how it pertains to folks here in Charm City. Alicia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So first things first, you say that the reasons that people might stray, they go beyond just what we think in our imaginations. And Ashley Madison actually had a survey that co-signed that. Can you explain a little bit some of these reasons?
Sure. I, like everyone else, thought the reasons were very simple before I did the study. But what I found was more than half of the women I talked to were either in sexless marriages or marriages where the sex was not fulfilling. And so that drove them outside the relationship. Now, they got more from those relationships than just sex, but that was a primary motivator.
Now, typically the sexless marriage topic is male dominated. More often than not, you will hear men complain about S-less marriages as opposed to women. So let's just take that at face value. Let's say that we believe her on that one. The other one was way more interesting. Unfulfilling. This is one of the many reasons outside of the stats and statistics, and I can show you that as well as to why body count matters. See, the stats say that the less bodies that she's accumulated, the less likely that she will try to divorce. If she's experienced all of these different flavors of eggplants with different RPMs attached to them, if you know what I'm saying, then she will be less likely to be long-term satisfied than the man that gets down on bended knee for her. It's kind of like, let's say you walk into an ice cream store and there's 50 options of ice cream and you pick out a top 3 flavor. You go back the next week, those 3 flavors are gone. And you're like, shit, I only got brambleberry crisp left and blueberry muffin flavor. Shit, Those are good. They're okay. But those are not the top 3 that I had before. And I may continue to long for the top 3, even though they are no longer available. Now, if I never had those 3, would I long for them? No.
So that was a primary motivator, but then it continues because it's not just about the physical act.
Right. They talked about having these sort of friendly relationships with their outside partner. Sometimes that person can offer insight into your relationship with your spouse, how good it feels to feel desired and wanted, and somebody with similar interests or hobbies that you can have a good conversation with. So it is more than just sex, but sex may be the motivator.
And so we see Ashley Madison's figures here from that survey. So they talk about that, the new desires, the affection, the friendship, and that feeling of butterflies again. That's interesting. God. So when you were reading their survey.
So this was asked directly to women. What's crazy in this is that, look, why do you cheat? 42% says friendship. So you cheat to be friends?
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Global bullshit. I call bullshit.
This just keeps getting better and better, baby.
Butterflies again. That's interesting. So when you were reading their survey findings and you have your own book and this research, there was a lot that co-signed each other, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody I talked to said similar things to what we just saw on that graph. That feeling of butterflies came up again and again. I remember one woman I talked to said, it's difficult to keep that going in a marriage. You just can't keep that kind of level of excitement and butterflies and newness.
So you cheat?
That you can get in an outside partnership.
Was there something in the survey that surprised you? I think I read here the respondents of the survey said that having an affair was worth it, by and large. That surprised me as a married woman. I was clutching my pearls a little bit, but it said, what was it, like 71%?
I believe it was 71. Yeah, I think it was 71%. Yeah, I found similar sorts of things in my book as well. And it is shocking, right? We think to ourselves, that sounds like so much work.
Yo, this is so
and
crazy.
So much time and the logistics of explaining where you're.
Hold on. 29% said, I regained my confidence. Confidence for what? To go back to your husband so he can now have a turn?
And so much time and the logistics of explaining where you're supposed to be, right? But the people I talked to said, I am cheating to stay in my marriage.
Talk about that, because I feel like a lot of people are going to watch this right now and be like, yeah, right, this is some hooey. But I mean, the survey said that a lot of people were straying to stay.
Yes.
Why stay if you want to stray?
That's an interesting question. And when I started the study, I had those same kind of questions myself. But what I found was these people are talking about marriages and relationships and families that really work very well. They love their partners. They don't want to not be married to their partner, but they're existing in some kind of sexual desert, if you will, where they've just gone years and years without any kind of sexual fulfillment. And so they say, I came to this decision where either I have to cheat or I'm going to have to bust up my happy home and break.
You know what's crazy about this is that when men say things like this, there's upheaval. When women say things like this, it gets standing ovations and articles written in Psychology Today about it.
My spouse's heart and take my kids away from their other parent, and they didn't want to do that. So for them, outsourcing the sex, if that makes sense.
Outsourcing, wow. Yeah.
Was a legitimate, reasonable answer.
So as we're wrapping up, when people are reading your book, was there something that even you found surprising in your research?
Yes, so much was surprising. One of the big things was the fact that women talked a lot about maintaining multiple affairs. Wow. I kind of went in thinking, oh, they've got a husband and one person outside, but that was not the case for many of them. They were sort of juggling partners, and their reasoning made sense. They said, I've already put all my needs into one person and depended on them, my spouse, and that's not worked out for me. So why would I do that again?
My goodness.
In an affair?
Your book sounds fascinating.
Thank you.
If people want to get it, it's at anywhere bookstores or anywhere books are sold.
Yes, absolutely. You can get it on Amazon.
All right.
Yes.
Perfect. So check that out, The Secret Life of the Cheating Wife.
Now there's an expectation for men to still be prioritizing marriage in our modern day society here today when we have justifications. We have the truth. Seems like the women nowadays are not even believing in happily ever after no more. Maybe the entire time it was a complete and utter guise. There used to be a gold standard where the women were virgins and there was like this understanding, and that shit went all away when we encroached on the sexual revolution. And the thing is that generally is thought of within people who are single, but apparently it's not. It's also a thing that happens within marriage as well. And to know that the general sentiment today of some of these modern day ladies is to cheat to keep. But the reality of this is that this is some straight feminist ass shit. Why? Because when you consider sex between both men and women, we cannot equate those two things, right? It's an act, but from a physiological perspective, we are different. And because of those differences, whether it be hormonally, whether it be actually physically with our innies versus our outies, we cannot treat it the same, which is why I say that women cheating is far more diabolical than a man cheating. It's all wrong. It's all lying. It's all incorrect. I don't think nobody should be doing it, but it has far more consequences onto women than to men. But this type of content is sort of masculinizing women as to say that they can be, doing these things with little to no repercussions. And in fact, it's a benefit because it saves marriages. I mean, just look at the language in this Psychology Today article. Cheating to stay in a marriage. For these women, an affair wasn't about replacing their spouse. It was about filling a gap. They tried to communicate their needs, but nothing changed. Rather than stewing in frustration or resentment, they found that an affair allowed them to meet their needs elsewhere, easing tension at home and helping them stay in their marriage. Instead of growing distant or bitter, they felt more patient, engaged, and even affectionate in their day-to-day lives. They weren't looking for the one, they were looking for Mr. Now and Then. Love, feelings, emotional attachments. Again, this is Psychology Today justifying this behavior that anybody can look at this and be like, well, she's a whore, right? Like, let's just call it what it is. Let's call it a spade a spade. She lacks discipline and she can't figure out any other way besides cheating to try to save the marriage. How about having honest conversations? How about going to a therapy? Shit, a therapist. Trying anything else besides just going towards cheating. But the articles don't say nothing about that. I found that these women designed their affairs with military precision. This is what I talk about, that women cheat more covertly than men cheating overtly. Strict rules, clear boundaries, and zero risk of anybody catching feelings. But let's talk about another practical moves these women made, not putting all their eggs in one basket. Many women maintain multiple affair partners at once, not because they were greedy. How is that not because you're greedy? But because they've already learned from marriage that relying on just one man for everything was a risky bet. They didn't learn that from being married. They learned that from the feminist propaganda and their single-ass thought girlfriends that they have around them. So they kept a roster or a herd of partners to ensure they always had options. All of this content right here goes more to show that secular marriage, there's no goddamn point. If there's not a religious reason to get married, right, and you're not rooted in a belief system, then what is the goddamn point? They can be infiltrated with Western ideology and then they have a roster while the guy is up at work working hard as shit. The guy is mentally taxed. And because of that tax, it may be harder for him to fulfill some of these duties and obligations from a sexual perspective. So instead, they get their back blown out by the black neighbor next door. Now, to add on to this content, I found a story of a man being cheated on by his wife, but is too scared to confront her. Let's watch.
I recorded my wife cheating on me, and I can't stop watching it. Topsy-turvy.
Yeah. Now I'm locked.
Yeah.
Now I'm locked.
A couple weeks ago, I decided to surprise my wife with a kid-free night out. My parents live about an hour and a half away from us, and I arranged for the kids to stay with them for the weekend. Usually, when I go to my parents, I'm gone until later in the evening. We spend all day there and leave around dinner time. This time, I was dropping off the kids and immediately going back home so I could surprise my wife and we can go out as soon as possible. I had made reservations at a nice restaurant and was hoping to go to a few places for some drinks first. I left at 8:30 and was back in our house planning before 12:30. As I pulled up onto the street, I saw a truck parked in front of the house. I didn't recognize it. I assumed it was someone seeing the neighbor though, because it's not unusual for someone to park in front of our house. I parked a few houses away, thinking I would sneak into the house and surprise my wife instead of pulling into the driveway and going in through the garage. I went in through the basement door. I was as quiet as I could possibly be, but as soon as I walked in, I heard them making sounds on the floor above.
Oh my God.
My
heart would be on the floor.
When I first heard it, I thought she was just by herself, maybe having some personal time. I didn't want to interrupt her privacy or embarrass her, so I was just going to go back in the car and just go in the garage so she would know I was home. Then I heard a man's voice. I immediately felt sick. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. It's hard to describe how I felt in the moment. I decided to go upstairs. I had no desire to confront them. I just wanted to see what was going on. I moved slowly and quietly and went up the stairs.
My heart's really beating. I'm not even joking. My heart is literally beating out my chest as we speak.
It's nuts.
I'm really locked in.
I moved slowly and quietly and went up the stairs. The door was halfway open. The kitchen was empty, but I could tell they were in the living room. It was obvious what was going on at this point by the sounds. There was nowhere for me to look in the living room without me being seen. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. I put my phone just around the corner. I could see my wife with a man I didn't recognize. I won't go into detail on what they were doing, but I think you can figure it out. I started recording it. I was thinking that I need to record it. I need a record of it for whatever I decide to do with it in the future. I just stood there in the kitchen, watching this all unfold on my phone screen. I felt like I could just scream at any moment, but for some reason, I just froze completely. This went on for several minutes.
Oh my God.
She finally jumped off him and made a comment about going to the bedroom, and they went upstairs. She even made a comment about how much time they had left. I walked into the living room and found the guy's pants. I took his wallet out and took pictures of his driver's license. I know his name and his address. I've never met him. I have no idea how he knows my wife either. I left the house the same way I entered. I went back to my car and cried like the pathetic man I am. I decided to watch the video to make sure I recorded it. I watched it all. I sat in my car for at least half an hour. I couldn't drive to my parents and get my kids, as I would have to explain why. I decided that I would pull in the driveway, open the garage, and just pretend like I was there to surprise her. I took my time getting into the house. I made a lot of noise. When I saw her, she was very flustered, asking me why I was home, etc. She was in a robe, and she said she was just getting ready for a bath. I told her about my plans, and she seemed excited. She poured us both a glass of wine, and she said we should pregame before getting ready. I don't think I talked very much. She took me into the living room. I'm not proud of what I let happen. I'm gonna read this bit slowly.
Stop.
She took me into the living room. I'm not proud of what I let happen. I could faintly see the guy sneaking downstairs, going into the basement, but I didn't say anything or do anything.
Oh.
I just let my wife continue doing what she was doing to me.
Oh.
Wow! Wow! He was getting top from his missus, and then he saw next man walk out of his
Didn't even
yard,
say nothing.
and he just sat there and
Just took it.
just
took it.
Oh my God!
Since that day,
This is really real.
yeah, since that day, I've watched this video of her repeatedly. I can't bring myself to make any decisions on what I should do next. She seems to know something is wrong with me because she's asked me a few times if I'm okay. I feel worthless, and every time I hit a low point, I watch the video again.
Oh my God.
I feel like I've watched it at least 10 times a day since I've caught them. What should I do?
Trauma.
Question. Do you reckon he's it?
Oh, Christ.
It's dark.
It's dark, but
10 times a day, you man.
Yeah, I think he's probably. I think he has, but in like a crying state.
Yeah, like a shameful.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I think he has.
This story right here is exactly how villains are made. But I'll tell you guys, if this ever happens to any of you and you're married, do not confront them immediately. Go consult with a lawyer immediately. You must start, because the lawyer may suggest a way in order to increase the chances or the likelihood of a positive outcome for you in a divorce. The lawyer might need additional evidence, additional data in order to increase the chances of you getting a favorable outcome. But it's my thought that he keeps on looking at the video as a trauma response to sort of normalize what has happened to him. I mean, this is your wife, dog, and you watching her get her back twisted in front of you, and his soul now is probably crushed, probably really loves the woman, really loves the kids, was doing things for her out on her anniversary, and she's over here cheating on him. Absurd. And the reason that I bring this story and situation up, not only is it an entertaining story, but I think back to the original Psychology Today article where they're justifying this sort of behavior. And they could justify it all they want, try to normalize it as opposed to normalizing discipline and not being a slat. Because obviously there's some real victims, right, that become of that. It's always interesting when we have like a cheating based discussion, how many people just assume that cheating is just a male thing. It's about 50-50. Men are cheating at the same rate as women are. But all right, guys, I'm out of here for right now. Write me your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns down in the comment box down below. I appreciate you guys for rocking with me with this amount of time here today. Hopefully you enjoyed your stay, because I know that I did. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.